Hello and welcome back to the Dynamic Racing League. This is probably not going to be just another race. This is probably going to be the race when Alpamut K finally wins his first Dynamic Racing League title. So a little extra attention to this race, because this might be the day, the opportunity Alpamut K has been waiting for since the day he joined the Dynamic Racing League. He used to race in the lower class before, which we don't have anymore, and he was very good in that class. He immediately earned his seat in the main league, and he was fast since the very first day he joined the main league. So he really deserves what he has achieved and what he's probably going to achieve in a few minutes. But obviously there is other drivers on track, and Matt was better than Alpamut K last year and 2 seasons ago as well, when Matt won his titles. But Alpamut K has been really outstanding during the course of this season. He wasn't even sure whether he was going to race or not before the beginning of the season. It was something related to COVID-19, I don't remember what exactly. Anyway, the pressure is all on Matt. I will talk later about, you saw Matt already having a pretty difficult moment, because he nearly lost control of his car before the lap even started. He was lucky nothing serious happened, and now he can carry on. His qualifying might have ended there already, but now Matt can focus on his lap and forget what was about to happen before. Anyway, I was saying I will talk later about the possible scenarios in which Alpamut K can win or lose the title, but basically Matt really needs to do everything in his power, because Alpamut K can be happy with a pretty mediocre result, settle for a mediocre result and still win the title. Now Matt, in the final part of the circuit, can use the slipstream of the Alfa Romeo in front of him. But I just noticed the map on the right side of the screen is red, so this means that when Matt crosses the line, and indeed when Matt crossed the line, the lap was invalidated, which isn't very good, because he is using soft tires, and the soft tires lose performance very quickly. And indeed, you can see I used the race director, and you can see that you could see that the lap was invalidated by the race director. Now Scaife in second place at the moment, behind of Alpamut K. Scaife about 3 seconds slower than Alpamut K. Will he improve his lap? He improved, but not enough to gain to go up in second place. Now Liverpool in second place, and Alpamut K driving back to the garage. Alpamut K driving back to the garage, and he is probably very happy with how the session began for him. And Jayor goes up in second place. Very good lap. Jayor, who is back in the league. Alpamut K, Jimmy James. Now Alpamut K is in another outlap. And Matt as well leaves the garage, driving out of the garage, and he is on medium tires. And this is a pretty weird strategy, because he wants to start ahead of Alpmut K. And I was saying, this is a pretty weird strategy. We'll see later what Matt wants to do, really wants to do, because he wants to start ahead of Alpmut K if he wants to win the title. He is now in 7th place without a lap time. This is a pretty weird strategy, conservative strategy. He needs to attack, to be aggressive and not defend. But we'll see later what he really wants to do. Now Matt is in the middle sector. This is still the middle sector. The last sector is very short and starts pretty much here. Alpmut K gets even better. Alpmut K, further improvement for Alpmut K. Now Matt on the final straight, we'll see how good this lap time is. Matt goes up in 2nd place. Alpmut K, Matt, Jimmy James, Jayor, Liverpool, Bryce in Scaife is the last driver among the drivers who have set a lap time already. Was drinking. So Matt in 2nd place, but this is not what he wants. So 10 seconds left. Alpmut K across the line. Alpmut K across the line. He's across the line. And further improvement. Alpmut K. You can see the map. The whole map of the circuit was purple, so Alpmut K had set the record in every sector, and looks like Matt is slowing down. So Matt is slowing down, so Matt won't be on pole. He needs to do better to keep the title fight alive. But obviously there are no points awarded in qualifying. Now Matt drives back to his Mercedes crew. Alpmut K, Matt, Jayor, and Alpmut K really has been outstanding in qualifying this season, really outstanding. He is indeed one of the fastest drivers worldwide. And Jayor goes up in 2nd place. With soft tires, he was faster than Matt, but Matt was on medium tires. So Alpmut K takes the pole position, then Jayor. Jayor slightly faster than Matt, but Matt used the medium tires while Jayor used the soft tires. But good, very good performance nonetheless. So Alpmut K, Jayor, Matt, Jamie James, Liverpool, Nico van Gelder, Scaife, Brycey, Hughes Moose, the only driver without a lap time. Looks like the sky is pretty cloudy. I'm not sure whether it's going to rain. Obviously I'm not racing, so I have no access to the weather information. The loading should be shorter because there is less drivers on track, only 9 drivers, low turnout.
Mediocre.
So the loading has been completed and the formation lap can start. I will use this moment to talk about the possible scenarios in which Alpmut K can win or lose the title, like I was saying before. So Alpmut K will win the title if Matt wins. with fastest lap, Alpamut K must finish at least 5th. If Matt wins without fastest lap, Alpamut K can settle for 6th place. If Matt finishes P2, Alpamut K must finish at least 9th, so if Matt doesn't win, Alpamut K can already retire because there is only 9 drivers left, so if Alpamut K retires now, he will finish 9th. If Matt finishes P2 without fastest lap, Alpamut K can finish at least 10th. If Matt does not finish in the top 2, Alpamut K is the champion. So you can tell that it's looking very good for Alpamut K, and it's probably going to be very easy. Of course, he said during the previous days that nothing has been that he has not won the title yet, because he probably doesn't want the pressure, but it's indeed very easy for him, waiting for everyone to reach their spot on the grid. Here we go, looks like yes, everything is ready for the start. The lights are beginning to come on and I can't see them. The lights are off. It looks like Jayor had a very good start, and indeed Jayor on the inside. Alpamut K trying to fight back. What's going to happen? Jayor keeps first place. He was ahead of Alpamut K before the first corner. Then Alpamut K tried to fight back, but Jayor, really now Jayor driving Alpamut K off track. He felt entitled to the racing line. Also, Alpamut K knows that he doesn't need to take unnecessary risks. Of course, it's very easy for him to win this title, but he still needs to keep his focus, to stay focused on his job. Jayor, Alpamut K, Jimmy James. Matt was overtaken by Jimmy James. Matt was overtaken by Jimmy James. I was obviously paying attention to the star of the league, and I didn't notice that Jimmy James was overtaking Matt. Now Alpamut K trying to fight back. Pretty intense first lap. Looks like there was no collision also. Everyone still, the group is still compact, so I guess no one has had issues. Alpamut K tried to overtake Jayor again, but Jayor was very good in his defending. Now they are in the middle part of the track where it's pretty much impossible to overtake. The DRS still hasn't been enabled yet, because the DRS is usually always enabled on the third lap. So Alpamut K can't use DRS yet. Now Alpamut K is very close, and it looks like he also has very good high speed. This is a pretty choice of camera, a pretty poor choice of camera from the game, but luckily nothing happened. So Jayor now on the inside. Alpamut K had a very good exit out of that corner, out of turn 2, and indeed Alpamut K overtook Jayor. So Alpamut K back in the lead again. Jayor now will probably not be able to keep up with Alpamut K's race pace, because Jayor is very good, but Alpamut K is one of the fastest drivers worldwide. And indeed looks like Alpmut K is already pulling away, while yes, Matt has managed to overtake Jimmy James, so Matt up in third place again, which is where he started. Alpmut K, Jayor, Matt, Jimmy James. Alpmut K sets fastest lap. Alpmut K sets fastest lap. There is also another fight. It's Ferrari and Renault, Hughes, Moose and Bryzy. Then Scafey last place, watching what's going on ahead of him. Hughes, Moose and Bryzy. In the meanwhile, Alpmut K pulling away. Bryzy was given a penalty for exceeding the track limits a few seconds ago. Hughes Moose's car was lagging for a couple of seconds, but looks like there isn't much lag in this race. So Alpmut K Matt was able to overtake Jayor according to the graphics on the screen, to the table on the screen. Then Jamie James, Liverpool, and this is a pretty weird situation because Nick Van Gelder looks like he isn't fast enough to keep up with the drivers in front of him, but at the same time he's much faster than the drivers behind of him, so he is driving like in free practice when nobody around. Bryzy made a mistake because he wasn't last before. He was 7th, I don't remember, or 6th. He was probably 7th, and now he is in last place, and he's all over the place. Maybe some issue with his tires. Lap 12. Matt still behind of Alpmut K. Alpmut K is very fast. Matt needs to finish ahead of Alpmut K, but looks like Alpmut K is even faster than Matt, so it's looking very tough for Matt. Nice helicopter view. I really love the helicopter views because you can have a better sense of the speed of these cars, which you don't have the same sense of speed when the camera is too close to the cars. Alpmut K, Matt, Jayor, Jimmy James, Liverpool, Nick Van Gelder stuck in 6th place. We are riding on board with Matt. He is using the medium tires, so I think he will pit later than Alpmut K. We'll see, because and indeed the moment we were waiting for, the man who could win the title today is about to pit. Let's see what tires he wants to choose. Looks like yes, Alpmut K chose medium tires, so Alpmut K, I'm not sure whether these tires are good enough to get to the end. Now Jayor behind of him and Jimmy James pitted at the same time, and they both chose medium tires, so they are fighting now in the pit lane exit, which is also pretty tricky because if you mess up you end up straight into the barrier. Now Jayor ahead of Jimmy James. Jimmy James looks very quick behind of Jayor. Looks like he has the speed to put Jayor under pressure. Why is my mouth so dry today? I struggle talking. Anyway, I was drinking again. Bryzy gets another penalty for corner cutting. Jimmy James nearly ended up into Jayor's car, back of the car. And now there is Nick Van Gelder causing some issues. Now they both get past. Yes, Jayor got past. Will Jimmy James get past too? Yes, Jimmy James got past. It was more difficult for Jimmy James to get past because Jayor used the DRS on the straight while Jimmy James needed to outbrake Nick Van Gelder. Matt, Alpamut K, Jayor. Alpamut K of course has already pitted. That's why Matt is in the lead. And we'll see when Matt decides to pit. Now Matt is losing time because Alpamut K is on fresher tires. But Matt will probably, definitely use soft tires in the last laps because he started on the medium tires. This is Matt. You see that he is driving on medium tires. Alpamut K sets fastest lap, less than 20 laps left. Matt, Alpamut K, Jayor, Jimmy James, Nick Van Gelder, Little Paul, Hughes moves, Scaife and Bryzy. Jayor gets a 3-second time penalty as well. We are waiting for Matt, for the moment when Matt decides to pit, to have a clear idea of the race situation. We'll see now if Matt decides to drive in. Jimmy James and Jayor, they have been fighting for quite a few laps. Jayor is defending very well and acting and keeping his composure under pressure. But now Jimmy James is very close to Jayor. He will have DRS. Alpamut K sets another fastest lap. Jayor very close, Jimmy James very close to Jayor, but looks like Jayor doesn't have the speed. Looks like Jimmy James doesn't have. Looks like Jimmy James' top speed isn't high enough for him to attack Jayor. It's pretty weird. This also depends on the setup that you are using. Looks like Jimmy James is very quick in the corners, but if he lacks top speed, then it will be very difficult for him to make a move. You saw that before, that Jimmy James was very close to Jayor before the straight, at the beginning of the straight, but he wasn't able to make a move because he couldn't get closer even with DRS. Now we'll see if the same thing happens again. Jimmy James opens DRS, but he hardly gets closer. So maybe this is something. There is something in his setup that prevents him from having a very high top speed. Another lap and Jimmy James is still behind Jayor and he is unable to make a move. Jayor isn't even defending. It's weird because Jimmy James is all over Jayor, but Jayor doesn't even need to defend, and Matt has pitted. Matt has pitted and he gets back on track right ahead of Jayor. Now Matt will probably pull away from these two because Matt is on fresh soft tires, so the pace difference will be huge, I guess. At least that's what should happen. but now Alpamut K is leading by almost 8 seconds and there isn't many laps left, so we'll see if this was the right strategy. And indeed what I predicted is coming true, because Matt is pulling away from Jayor and Jamie James. Alpamut K sets another fastest lap. He knows he's winning the title, but he keeps driving as fast as possible, so he isn't scared of he isn't afraid of making mistakes. So very brave driving. Alpamut K, Matt, Jayor, Jamie James, Liverpool, Nick Van Gelder, Hughes moves. This is Alpamut K driving a brilliant race, and this is Matt a few seconds behind of Alpamut K. I don't think Matt can already see Alpamut K. The car ahead wasn't Alpamut K, it's probably a lapped car, because 7 seconds is a bigger distance than this, so that's probably, and it looks like an Alpha Tauri ahead of him. And you see Jimmy James and Jayor very close to each other, very close to each other. Lap 23 begins. Jimmy James and Jayor, it's almost funny this, because Jimmy James can't make a move. Jimmy James just can't make a move, because Matt, you saw Matt off track. Matt was off track, and now he corrects the mistake. Matt probably spun. I was watching Jayor and Jimmy James, and suddenly Matt was off track, and this is where probably the championship ends. Now he is not even in the top 2. Now Matt isn't even in the top 2. Alpamut K, Jayor, Jimmy James and Matt. Really difficult race. Matt hasn't been outstanding in the second part of the season. Looked like he had the upper hand in the first races. Then Alpamut K really found something in his driving style. From Austria, he was really started to have an edge. And now Jayor and Jimmy James still fighting, and like I have said multiple times, looks like Jimmy James doesn't have enough speed on the straights to make a move. He can get close in the corners, but Jayor, he's faster on the straight, so even with DRS Jimmy James can't get close enough, and Jayor doesn't even need to drive defensive lines. Now Alpamut K can relax even more, because he probably knows that Matt is down in 4th and that he made a mistake, because I think everyone enables the map during the race, so Alpamut K probably saw Matt on the map having issues, problems. Now it's looking very difficult for Matt, almost impossible. He set he set the record in the third sector. But to be honest, he shouldn't have pushed so hard, because he was already in P2 and he just needed to hope for something to happen to Alpamut K. Safety car deployed, and Matt nearly driving into the safety car. there was maybe some misunderstanding with the Jimmy James. There isn't many laps left. This could help Matt because now Alpmut K will have some pressure, especially if Jayor wants to take a win before the season ends. And Alpmut K driving back to the pits, changing his tires, soft tires, and it was predictable because there is not many laps left, so that was a predictable choice of tires. Now Jayor driving out of, I can't see what, I think everyone is going to choose soft tires because there isn't many laps left, and I think everyone has a new set of soft tires. So Alpmut K, Jayor, Jimmy James, Matt, Liverpool, Nick Van Gelder, Hughes Moose, Scaife. Alpmut K, Jayor. Alpmut K has already reached, is already behind the safety car, now waiting for everyone else. So Alpmut K, Jayor, now Jayor right behind of Alpmut K. The safety car has been around for a while now. I think it should the safety car in this lap, you have the warning, you had the warning on the bottom of the screen. So now Alpmut K can control the race, the pace before the race restarts, and he obviously now is under pressure. There is a nasty crash behind. Jimmy James is out of the session. I don't know how that happened because the camera wasn't Jimmy James wasn't on camera when it happened. So Alpmut K, Jayor, Matt, I don't think this will cause another safety car because the safety car just drove back to the garage before, so I don't think it will come out again. Alpmut K, Jayor, Alpmut K pulling away from Jayor. I was saying this was the only chance for Matt to win the title. He was probably hoping for a collision, but Jayor didn't even manage to make a move. Alpmut K was very good at the restart. So Alpmut K, Jayor, then Matt, Liverpool, Nick Van Gelder, Hughes Moose, Scaife is the only lapped driver, so he is still behind Jimmy James, even though Jimmy James has already retired. Now Scaife up in 7th place. I explained why it took so long for Scaife to overtake Jimmy James, to take 7th place. Alpmut K, 5 laps left. Hughes Moves also retires from the session. And this has caused another safety car. The Hughes Moves was the cause. Alpmut K, Jayor, Liverpool, Nick Van Gelder. I don't think the race will end under safety car, but there won't be many laps left when the safety car will drive back to the garage again. Maybe one or two. The safety car, you can see on the map that the safety car is waiting for the group after turn 2. It's the yellow spot on the map. Scaife back to the garage to replace the front wing. I don't think he was involved in a collision with Hughes' moves before. Probably he was involved in some collision with Hughes' moves, and that's why Hughes' moves retired. But like I always say, I can't keep an eye on everyone, so I don't know what happened. K, Jayor, Matt, Liverpool, Nick Van Gelder, and Scaife is the new order. The safety car again has been. There was almost a misunderstanding. Matt and Liverpool nearly collided under safety car, but it can't get any worse than this for Matt. We're getting very close to the end of the race. And it's looking better and better for Alpmut each lap that goes by. But the safety car goes back to the will drive back to the garage in this lap. So this probably is the last moment of pressure for Alpmut, because he has Jayor and Matt all over his back. Matt can't do anything at the moment, because if Alpmut finishes P2, then he is the champion. So the race restarts, and Jayor didn't manage to make a move again. Jayor is basically the only hope that Matt has. It's funny how there have been 2 restarts and Jayor wasn't even able to get close to Alpmut. Now Alpmut is pulling away from Jayor, and I think Matt is starting to realize that he has no chance. I think Matt is starting to realize that he won't win this title. Stuck behind Jayor. Now we're riding on board with Jayor. The last lap is about to begin. And Alpmut only needs to keep it clean. Also, if Alpmut retires now, then Matt needs to overtake Jayor and set the fastest lap. So it's beyond impossible for Matt. Basically, Alpmut is already the champion, but he better keep it clean, because you never know. But he already is the champion. He has 16 main league race wins, 25 main league poles. He had 24 main league poles before this one, but he also got the pole before, so it's 25 poles, because the statistic was updated after the last race. So Alpmut worked very, very hard for this goal. After that, he lost to Matt in 2018 and 2019. Alpmut just crossed the line a few seconds ago, and Alpmut is finally the champion of the Dynamic Racing League. So the championship is over. There is one last race, but the championship is over, the title fight is over, and Alpmut is the winner of this season, which means that he is now tied on titles with Okim, Oli, Son of the Blues. They last raced many years ago. Then He is also tied on titles with me because we both have one, but I have to say I still have more wins than Alpmut K. Then we have the two Matt, the Dutch Matt and the British Matt. They both have 2 titles, and then Owen wasn't even able to make it today. He is the most successful driver in the Dynamic Racing League history with 5 titles, but Alpmut K finally joins the champions.